After my wife gave birth, she stopped pretending. She brought other men into our bed, then smiled at me. The baby's already here, Cole. What are you going to threaten me with now? Everyone waited for me to explode. Because I used to. I used to scream, beg, and break for a woman who never loved me. But this time, I picked up my daughter and walked away. From that day on, I became the perfect husband. When paparazzi chased Betty's affairs, I paid them off. When her lovers caused scenes, I cleaned them up. So when one of her boy toys finally showed up demanding my place, Betty thought she already knew the ending. She laughed. Well, how is my perfect husband going to play the saint this time? I put our baby in her arms and said, consider this child the final payment for the life you once saved. We're done. Betty stepped closer. You forgot what you are. I hadn't. Years ago, my father abandoned my dying mother and left us on the street. I was 13, kneeling in the rain, begging strangers to save her. That was when Betty found us. Her family paid the hospital bills. Later, her mother forced Betty to marry me. Betty never forgave me. To her, I was never a husband. I was a charity case. A debt. A body bought with money. What she never cared to know was that every cent her mother gave me went to my mother's treatment. And my mother died anyway. So yes, I stayed. I endured the affairs and humiliation because part of me believed I owed that family my life. Until the night one of them touched my daughter. Harper started crying upstairs when Tristan came downstairs wearing my robe. I turned toward the nursery. Tristan lunged after me and grabbed for Harper. She deserves a real father, he said. Harper let out a terrified cry. I shoved him on instinct. He fell. Betty came running. Not to the baby, to him. Then, while Harper cried, Betty threw money at me and ordered me to buy Tristan a birthday cake as an apology. I drove there and back in under 30 minutes. When I returned, the house was too quiet. I ran to the nursery. Harper was lying in her crib, too still. Her cheeks were red. Her breathing was shallow. She wouldn't wake up. When I dragged Tristan to the floor and demanded the truth, he choked out. She wouldn't stop crying. I just gave her a little melatonin. I nearly killed him. Then, with our baby barely breathing in the next room, Betty looked at the bruises on his neck and said only one thing. Apologize to him. Now, she is your daughter, I said. Is her life really worth less than the man in your bed? Betty looked away. I took Harper to the ER alone. The doctors pumped her stomach and saved her. That was the moment I knew. My daughter would never grow up in Betty's house. The next morning, I came back alone. To pack. To leave. To take my mother's ashes and never return. But Betty had filled the house with guests for Tristan's birthday brunch. When I said I wanted a divorce, they laughed. Called me dramatic. Jealous. Ungrateful. A gold digger pretending to have pride. Then I picked up the urn from my dresser and held it to my chest. That was when one of Tristan's friends pointed at it and shouted that I was using dark energy to curse him. The room went insane. Tristan dropped to his knees, saying some healer told him an object tied to death was draining his life force. They were talking about my mother's ashes. I told them the truth, that the urn held my mother. Some of them looked embarrassed. Betty didn't. She gripped the urn and said, if you want this back, apologize to Tristan. Mean it. Or I'll flush whatever is in here down the toilet. For a second, I couldn't breathe. Then I bowed my head and apologized to the man who drugged my daughter. Tristan smiled. Betty's face softened. She started to hand the urn back. And suddenly Tristan crashed into her arm. The urn flew from her hands. It hit the floor with a brutal crack. Ceramic shattered. Pale gray ashes exploded across the hardwood. I dropped to my knees. And when I finally looked up, Betty was staring back at me with something I had never seen in her eyes before. Fear. Because in that moment, she finally understood. The man she thought she could humiliate forever had just lost the very last reason to keep being merciful. And what I did next made everyone in that house regret not letting me walk away.